Hi there, and welcome to my channel that I am still calling Work in Progress. But the vision stays the same in terms of I envision this place to be kind of a gathering together community, if you will, where we share the stories of our life journey. Um, Stories of challenges, stories of what we could call success maybe, stories of what we've learned along the way, stories of how one thing led to another, all in the hopes to one, help one another, and also to discover that I believe we're more alike than not alike. Now, I don't mean that we all think alike, that's not what I'm saying, but in the essence of who we are, this soul, this spirit that's having this human experience, that's where we come together to discover how much alike we are. We're basically spirits having a human experience, and that's what we really share at the core of really what we're all about. So that stays right there, where I'm hoping that's what we can achieve on this channel, because we're still very new. We're kind of finding our way, working toward that. I'm going to remind you, though, if you're new, I'm sorry if you keep hearing this for a while now, but what I'm asking is if anybody listening would like to have a conversation with me about your story of your life journey, or stories about anything that you'd like to share that maybe could help others, or just share so that we get a sense of who each of us really are. So if you have an interest in this, and I really hope you do, just look below this video and there's a way to contact me. There's the contact information. I promise you I will get right back. So that's really what I'm hoping to achieve. But in the meantime, I'm going to kind of keep on talking about different things that I think are going on. And as we begin to kind of build an audience, we'll see where this will go. I'm really trying to stay not attached to a particular way, because I do know in any endeavors I've ever taken on that they kind of have a life of their own, and that's what we kind of have to watch for. So that's where I'm at least in this present moment. So today I wanted to jump on and I wanted to talk about thoughts. I think that this whole thing about thoughts can be very confusing, can be challenging, no doubt. And yet it's something I think is very important that we actually become aware of our thoughts. Now, you know, the thoughts, the voice in the head that's always there, just about always there. Sometimes I think we can have a little bit of quiet, maybe if we're meditating, sleeping, whatever. I don't even know if the thoughts are quiet when we're thinking or when we're sleeping, but pretty much they're always there. And here's what I want to talk about with these thoughts. First of all, what you really want to get clear on and really begin to understand is these thoughts are not ever true. They're not who you are. They are just like clouds in the sky. Kind of what when I think about the clouds in the sky, you know, when we have a cloudy day, we can't see the sun, but it's still there. Well, I think in our living this human life, when those thoughts are constantly jabbering, it's like covering up the essence of who we really are, which is the observer having this experience of being a human. But these thoughts can be extremely seductive. They can absolutely grab our attention and we're off and running with whatever thought it is, going down a rabbit hole very quickly. So as we become aware of our thoughts, we can at least start to get a sense and a feel of what's really going on. Now, here's the deal. If you befriend your thoughts, which most of us do at a lot of times, meaning we're listening, we're right there with that thought. The thought feels real. In fact, we can feel like we are the thought. And we're often running on a certain particular whatever subject. Whatever it is. It could be something that happened yesterday with a friend, and maybe there was an argument, and the thought is speaking to you about you should have said this, or you could have done that, or she or he is really a jerk, or whatever it is, but you're often running. You're not in the present moment, we're not. We're just often running with this thought, and the more that we are befriending, because that's what we're doing, that thought, becoming friends with it, because we're listening, we're engaged with it, the stronger this thought goes on, and the more it can keep us in its world. If we can become aware, just aware that, oh, okay, there's a thought. Thought's like a cloud passing in the sky. If we can even try, give it a shot to do that, you begin to kind of pull away a little bit, and you begin to kind of get the flavor, the feeling of, oh, this is a thought. The thought's not real. I'm not this thought. And you can pull yourself a bit out of the befriending, the being involved and engaged with it. Now this takes practice. I'm not saying it's a piece of cake, no. You have to, want to become aware of your thoughts in that way. And you want to then start to practice noticing from an aware place. Okay, here comes that thought. We have repetitive thoughts all the time as well. And these thoughts can come from childhood memories, from behaviors or beliefs that we've had, from programs, that got installed, so to speak, when we were children. All this thing that puts this false person, we're going to call it, or this false identity, out there, where we get confused and think that's who we are. So thoughts are part of that. A thought helps you identify with the false self through the thoughts that are going on. Now, some of us do, if we try to resist these thoughts, in other words, we become aware that this thought's coming in, I don't like this thought, I don't want this thought, and we begin to resist it, meaning we're really kind of fighting with it in a way. I don't want to hear this, I don't want to hear this, and maybe we try to bury it, or we try to distract ourselves in some way, go get something to eat, watch TV, do whatever that distraction is for you. Then what we're doing is we're still inviting that thought, these thoughts, to become more assertive. If we resist, there's that saying, what you resist persists. Well, that's so true with thoughts. So either way, whether we're befriending a thought by paying attention to it and kind of going down the rabbit hole it's going to take us down, or we resist the thought, what actually ends up happening is the thoughts become stronger and more assertive in trying to get our attention. So the ideal situation is, one, to keep reminding and remembering these thoughts are not true. I'm not the thought. The thought is just like a cloud passing in the sky, and there's nothing that I have to do about it. What that means is we need to become kind of neutral, just neutral, not having a resistance to it, nor engaging with it. And it can happen even when we start to engage or start to resist and we catch ourselves. We can even at that time still kind of breathe, pull back, and it's a memory, a different kind of memory, saying, I'm not this thought is not me, this thought just needs to pass through. And the more often, and this is particularly true of repetitive thoughts that you might have, the more often that you can just be in a neutral place and allow it, don't resist it, just allow it to pass through, because it does, it's energy. So it's just going to pass on without your attention, your judgment, your engagement or your resistance. It just is through this neutral, let's consider you the sky. That's it. It's just passing. Boom. And then the next one. And the next one. And that's how it kind of goes. And the more that we can stay in that kind of quiet, non-reactive position, the thought becomes less involved. We become less involved with the thought. In a strange way, the thought becomes less involved with us. So that is a key factor for becoming awakened, so to speak, to what's going on right now in this moment, and not feel that we're caught up or taken off course by these thoughts. Because that's what happens. If we pay attention and really get engaged with our thoughts, then we are often running in la-la land. It's make-believe land. It's nothing that's real, nothing that's going on. I mean, there can be worried thoughts, right? But they're still thoughts, and it's not the now. And for the most part, all these thoughts they're not going to happen. They're just thoughts. You know, that doesn't mean to say that nothing ever unpleasant happens for us. It does. But again, that's an experience in the now. The thought takes and adds on all the trauma and the drama to something that you may think is going to happen in the future, or is going to happen maybe even in the near future. Maybe you have a surgery that you are coming up to having, and you're feeling anxious about it. And so then these thoughts start coming up. What if? What if? That's a clue, by the way. Always the thoughts have what ifs to them. Like, what if this happens? Or what if I picked the wrong surgeon? Or, you know, what if? Or maybe you heard a story about somebody that had a bad experience from this particular surgery. Anyway, it can go on, and it just completely takes over to the point where then the anxiety sets in and we're off and running. It's always, if we can come back and we can begin this in simple ways, rather than trying to do the hard ones like what I just described, let's start with the easy ones where we're just doing the dishes or we're making a bed, and we kind of tune in and notice, there's a thought going on. It's good, it's bad, it's neutral, who knows what it is, but we want it to be neutral. In other words, we want to practice not reacting in either an engaging way or a resisting way. We just want to let it pass. That's it. Without feeling that we are the thought is us, or the thought is true, or the thought isn't true. We don't even need to think that, because that can start a whole other series of thoughts. I mean, it's amazing. It's like a domino effect. You know, once you start really listening or getting engaged with a certain thought, it doesn't end. It's like it can go from here to there to there to who to here, everywhere. There's no ending to it. It'll just be a range of different thoughts that take us down different roads, and it's crazy. So what I'm suggesting, and this is what I do for myself, and it varies at times. It'll vary with, you know, what's going on in my life at a particular time, how difficult it is for me to center sometimes because of it, maybe anxiety, agitation, who knows. So it's not like it's a perfect situation. But what it is an opportunity, when we can, to get quiet or to just tune in. Just remember, like, you know, many times a day, tune in. Start breathing. Start breathing. Notice, are you getting hooked in? You know, did something trigger something? Maybe you're on social media and you read something and it triggers this thought, and there you are off running with this story, right? This whole thought story. By learning or getting aware of how thoughts happen in our particular own mind, and becoming more energetic, I would call it, about really working with becoming neutral, really beginning to practice that neutrality when a thought buzzes by. And that's, like I said, it's all the time. We're not without thoughts, and by the way, you're not going to stop thoughts. That's impossible. We can't stop the thoughts. But as we become less engaged with them and more in that neutrality, the thoughts kind of take a back picture, backstage, what do I want to say? They're not in the forefront. They're in the background. They're not in the forefront. They're in the background. And the forefront is more what's going on right now, what's happening right now. And that's huge, because when we can get into the moment, the nows, we have a whole different experience of what our life is about. We have a whole different experience of that moment. And it can be a very peaceful, very fulfilled sense of the moment. And we'll actually see things that we hadn't seen before. Maybe it's a flower in your garden you hadn't even noticed just popped up. It's the hard thing to explain, but once you've had that experience, then you know what it feels like to be in the moment and not be engaged with thoughts. Most of us, we know our normal, if you want to put it that way, is being engaged with these thoughts one way or another, resisting, engaging, whatever. So, what can really help, again, is first of all, make the intention that you want to become aware of your thoughts. And maybe, sometimes I set it up with, when I'm making the bed, I'm going to become aware of my thoughts. Or when I'm doing whatever, I'm going to become aware of my thoughts. Or I'm going to just sit down this morning and see what's coming through. That's it. And see where I go with it. It is a practice. It's like any kind of exercise. It's a practice, right? And the more often we do this, the easier it becomes to notice if we're engaged or resisting a thought. Now, here's one other piece to this that is very important and can be confusing. For many of us, happens for me, my intuitive part, my intuition also appears like a thought. It just appears like a thought. However, it has a different vibration, is the only way I know how to explain it. A different feeling to it. Now, I can ignore my intuition. It can come in and say something and I'm ignoring it. A simple thing yesterday is I was going to cook chicken and I wanted to get the skin off the chicken. And I was using this little knife and I'm thinking, I'm really struggling trying to get this done. And it popped in my mind. I tend to see things often as vision more than just words. So it popped into my mind to get this certain scissors. I forget what it's called. But we use it to cut herbs and so forth. Anyway, this pops in my mind, get the scissors. And the first thing was, no, I'm not going to do this with the scissors. That won't work. And then again, it popped in my mind, get the scissors. That was my intuition. I did. I went and got the scissors and boom. My job of getting the skin off the chicken happened very quickly. And I thought, wow, I'd never thought of doing this. And I'd always kind of struggled with trying to make this happen. And so there's just it's simple, right? It wasn't going to change my life dramatically. But there was a different thought. It came in as a thought. It came in as some kind of communication. Now, what in that moment, and at first I thought, no, that's not going to work. And then it came in again, and again, it's a vibration. And I listened. I mean, I do this all day long through very simple things. I know the other day I was expecting something from Amazon, and I think it was something that told me it was coming in the morning or a certain time. They don't always do that, but I did know that. And I was going to get in the shower, and before I started to get ready to get in the shower, and I got this message: before you shower, go out to the front door and look for the package. And I thought, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, if it stays there a little while, yes, there's this thing that goes on where people are picking up packages on porches, but I haven't had that happen, so it was no biggie. But again, it came in, this thought: before you get in the shower, go to the front door and see if the package came. And okay, I'll do it. And sure enough, the package was sitting out there, And so it was like, these are small things. That's why I want to talk about the small things, because the big things are happen less. So all day long, here's the deal. All day long, we're getting these thoughts that are coming through the mind from different places in the brain. Actually, I don't know if any of you have listened to much of the Jill Bolte Taylor talks or interviews that she's done. She has an incredible story, and she goes through how our brain works. So she was the one that had a stroke. I think she was in her late 20s or 30s, and she actually did research on stroke and taught students about stroke. She wasn't an MD, she was a PhD, so more of a researcher. And she had a very, very serious stroke, and her story is amazing of how she came through that with the help of her mom and I think higher self, higher source, whatever, because in truth she really shouldn't have been able to recover as she has. And she's most recently written another book, so that's why she's doing some of these interviews. So I can't explain what she said. I can kind of grasp it when I hear it. But anyway, that lets us kind of see where these thoughts come from. And she really speaks to that, because that was the part in her brain that stopped, were the thoughts. So she was in the moment, and she still actually has that in the moment going on. And she's totally recovered and has been back in her research and teaching for many, many years. But so it kind of says the certain spots of our brain, this is where these thoughts start to come from. So I believe, don't quote me, but I believe they come from like certain memories, and they put this little story together, and that's a thought. So it's a pretty innocent thing. The thought, why do we have to have this? I don't know. It's just, I guess, the way the brain is wired, and also it keeps us lost in this illusion as well, and at the same time is hoping to wake us up out of this pretend dream, we could call it, pretend world that we think we're living in, and get our attention to be in the moment. So again, everybody, if you're on a path, you've heard a zillion, trillion times, we need to be in the moment. That's where we want to live, is in the moment. And this Jill Bolte Taylor really speaks to that from her experience. It's quite an amazing to listen to her. But so most of us, though, however, we're not doing the moment. We're not living in the moment, because we're caught up with these thoughts, or we're caught up with judging something, or we're caught up with fear, having fear go on. It's a caught up. It's getting us out of the moment and into the whatever. And that seems to be the normal. But when we really begin to take on an intention of being able to see through some of this, then we get a taste of freedom. We get a taste of what it's like to really be right here, right now. And it has to happen. It only can happen from within, obviously. And it can't be forced. And it can't be, you can't push it. You can't demand that this happens. It's just a practice of the first intention, saying, let me just become aware of, if I can just see that my thoughts are there. Sometimes for some of us, we wake up at 3 in the morning with that thought, whatever that particular thought is, usually not a good thought, usually something we're concerned about, worried about, fearful thought, whatever. And we wake up with that thought in our mind, and that's a great time to kind of, because we're already, in bed, there's nothing distracting us. And so it's at that time, if we can just start breathing. Breath is the most important. I always have to remind myself of breathing. I'm not one that naturally goes there. But you start to take some deep breaths, and you just kind of say, okay. I always say, okay, thoughts, show me what you got. What is it? And you start to see how this, you don't really see, start to experience this particular thought. And then you can actually, I've caught myself starting to feel me start to getting pulled in and engaged with that thought. I can feel it, and then I can feel it in my body, anxiety comes up, etc. And then I can also feel when I can pull myself back out of it, and through breath and through remembering thoughts aren't true, I'm not this thought, it's a passing cloud, whatever it is that you need to say to yourself. So I'm spending a fair amount of time on just talking about thoughts because to me it's a huge subject. It really is. And we all get things in different ways. So maybe somebody out there is getting this the way I'm speaking about it. Maybe most aren't, I don't know. But at least it starts to put your attention on, are you aware of your thoughts? And then the other piece to this, which that'll have to go into a completely different video, is about our intuition. But I wanted to bring that up today because, again, intuition, I think for most of us, but I don't know. I mean, we're all unique, but I know for me and others that I've spoken with, intuition does come up like a thought. In fact, oftentimes there's a question, how do I tell the difference between my intuitive thought, let's call it that, and then just the, passing in the cloud thought? How do I know what's intuition? And like I said, there's no words in the language to really describe this well. At least I don't know of any. But to me, it's like it comes in at a different vibration. Now, I've been a person that for whatever reason for the time I was very young, felt my intuition, felt my intuitive thoughts, heard them and used them for a lot of times, a lot of scary times, a lot of times that, I just really needed to have that intuitive side come up. So, and important things, for whatever reason, medically, for any kind of medical decisions, I'm very intuitive that way. Now, I didn't start out that way 100%. I think what happened was I had some very unpleasant, challenging difficulties on a medical level with a doctor or doctors. And I think then that happened quite young. And so I think what happened though is then my intuition kind of came in. I don't know how that works exactly, but all I do know is that's a place I never question my intuition, ever. When it comes in with anything medically, whether it's a prescription for a drug, I need to go to a doctor, which I don't, I try never to have to do that. Sounds crazy, but I do. Then I have this intuitive sense, and it's really helped me through a surgery I had to have, and was being pushed kind of in one direction, and intuitively it didn't feel right, and so I didn't go that direction, and went another direction with a doctor I felt I could trust, and that was the perfect thing for me to do. So that's just a small example, and what's interesting is maybe because of my background, I'm not comfortable with medical procedures at all. I'm not even comfortable with the whole medical scene. I have a lot of distrust, and yet that's where my intuition is so strong. And so I know the feeling, that's what I can kind of say. I guess I see the difference. So, and there is a difference, there's a quality of something that happens when your intuition is coming through a thought. Now, I think some people have intuition coming through visions or dreams. I've heard of people they get their messages through dreams. To me, I'm not quite sure how that works as intuition. I mean, I get a lot of insight, I call it, through my automatic writing or journaling, either one. I'm not sure it's the same for me as intuition. So for me, because my messaging, the way I get it is through a thought, that's where I've had to really, I was going to say learn or really kind of decipher the experience of, is just this the thought, the yada yada thought, or is this something of my intuitive messaging? So that's something to take into consideration as well. So I don't know what else we can is good to talk about with thoughts right now. If you have any questions, write them down in the comments below, and I'll certainly respond to you. But in the meantime, if this kind of, if you kind of resonate with what I'm talking about, then give it a shot of starting to make an intention that you want to become aware of the thought without the engagement or resistance, and feeling like what it feels like to just stay in neutrality with it, letting it come in, pass, release. That's it. And seeing that feeling of then, rather than being taken away by the thought, you're rather in the moment of experiencing the passing through of this thought or the next thought. Again, it's a practice, but it's so, so important for our well-being, really. And probably even way more important in today's world. I mean, today's world is a tough one. It's tough, and there's so many ways we can get lost and caught up and in fear and anxiety, and it's overwhelming. It really is. So I believe personally that with what's all going on and the collective energy, and there's a ton of energy going on out there, that this is the most important time to practice the ways that we can actually keep more grounded, stay grounded, and be experiencing the moment rather than the what ifs in the future or shoulds or shouldn'ts in the past, and get in that kind of loop that goes nowhere, where we could just start to really become, or get a clarity, I guess I would call it, through this practice. So I'd recommend you give it a shot. Now, it's not like an overnight, none of this is like the overnight cure. We're not trying to cure anything, actually. We're not trying to get rid of our thoughts. We're not trying to do any of that. We're just having an awareness. But it takes practice. It really takes practice. So the more time that you can commit to the practice, probably the sooner the better, if you want to call it that. You'll become at noticing more often. Is this a thought? Let it, notice it, let it go, let it pass. Or is this my intuition trying to speak to me? That's there. Who knows how you're going to experience this. We all have our different, I think, ways of having a particular experience. We're not all the same, and some of us are more alike than others. So, that's a given. But anyway, again, I suggest you give this a shot and see if it can help you, particularly if you're going through a lot of situations right now that are causing anxiety, And you know, for some of us, we don't even have to have a situation to cause it. It can be triggered from just what's going on out in the world. Um, but there's plenty out there. If you've gotten laid off recently, which a lot of people have, or you are concerned that you're going to get laid off, this is a perfect time to start to practice this of the thoughts, because it's the thoughts that could drive you crazy. It's the what ifs that can make you feel like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it through this. So this is a great opportunity, or great time to really see if you can put this into action and start to get some relief, is basically what it's about. So again, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below, or contact me on my contact information that's below this video. Also, the Facebook page is also, the link to that is below the video. And on Facebook you can message me as well. So I'm making myself as available as I possibly can, in hopes that we start to have some conversations, and in hopes also that this is helping some of you. So I think I said the other day, I'll just keep talking and see where it goes, and whatever direction I'm kind of pulled toward through my intuitive messaging, then we'll go that direction as well. So I think that's it on a thought. In fact, I'm having a thought right now that it's enough already. Let's let it go for today. I'm going to just take 1 second, remind you, if you like the video, please click like, and please subscribe. And if you click that little doodad next to subscribe, then you'll be alerted every time a new video is posted. And I'm trying to really get more videos posted on a regular basis now, so that we start having, you know, I don't know how many times a week, but more than what I had started with. So that's my goal. So that would be it. I wish you a great time till we meet next time. A great week, good health, and good luck in trying this idea of noticing your thoughts. So take care. Until next time, I'm going to click and see if I can make this thing click once and for all without double clicking. So let's see what happens, okay?